Hello, 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 everyone. I am sorry about that. Modern technology is always fun to deal with. Jenna will be along momentarily. Once again, welcome, 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 everyone, to the kickoff of Heart for PCOS. Throughout the month of February, we are connecting cardiometabolic health, PCOS, and cardiovascular disease. Yes, there is a connection between PCOS and cardiovascular disease risks. While PCOS may not cause heart disease directly, a lot of the risks that are associated with PCOS due to insulin resistance, androgen excess, inflammation can raise our risks for cardiovascular disease. So basically what happens is it can cause problems like high blood pressure. It can cause problems like high cholesterol. Usually women with PCOS, whether you're thin, medium, large, we carry the weight around our stomach, and that can also be a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Even irregular periods, which we're going to talk about with Jenna tonight, can be a risk factor or an indicator that you could have risks for cardiovascular disease later in life. So I am going to add Jenna to our conversation. There she is. Remind everyone, we're giving away stuff tonight. So we're going to have a great conversation, and then I have 3 prizes that I'll be giving away at the end. So you have to make sure, in order to get those prizes, that you're commenting throughout our interview tonight. Hello, Jenna. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So comment.
Hi,
Hi.
Ashley.
If you have questions, everyone, pop them in the comments and we'll try to get to them. I can't guarantee we'll get to everything because we got a lot of ground to cover tonight. But please leave those questions. So everybody, welcome and welcome to Jenna once again. I wanted
Thanks. I'm so excited. February 1st, it's the beginning of PCOS Awareness Month. It's such a great
it, it
first
is
day.
so much
Yeah, excited to
going
be
on.
here.
We had an edition of a Heart for PCOS magazine come out, which I am so excited about. That it's been a labor of love, and it's helping us celebrate our 10th anniversary. We have people turning from teal to red. I have my red on and got rid of my teal for the month.
Awesome.
Yep. So there's lots going on, but I wanted to sit down and have a conversation with you because I seriously think that when we're talking about PCOS, it really needs to start with our periods because it's affected so much by this condition with the hormones, with the metabolism. And that's really one of the first indicators that there may be something going on or someone might have PCOS. So up to 85 to 90% of women with irregular periods have PCOS. So I wanted to call in the big guns, which is you, Jenna, the period guru, to help us kind of figure this all out and talk about what's a regular period, what's an irregular period. But before we do that, I would love you to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you kind of got into this space.
I'd love to. Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm also, I have PCOS myself, so I understand what it's like to have PCOS and, the struggle, but also I also know what it's like to be on the other side where you embrace all of the diet and lifestyle changes and you can be empowered as well. So I've been on both ends of that. And you're right, with the periods, that's the first thing that really kind of pops up. Like I remember when I was younger, it's like, why do I only have periods every 90 days? Like what's going on with this? All my other friends are having periods more regularly. And so I always had issues with my periods, and I had a lot of, I was one of those kids that like, I couldn't eat the same things as my friends. I would gain weight quicker. I had a lot of excess hair growth, and I knew something was different from a young age. And then at 14, the doctors decided to put me on hormonal birth control and oral contraceptives because I was having irregular periods. And that was their solution, which now we know is not really the best solution. It's kind of just covering up, the symptoms. It's not fixing the problem, which is doing us a huge disservice. And so I was on the pill for like 10 years, and then I decided to get off of it. And I had a lot of issues because you don't just get on the birth control pill for 10 years and then get off feeling great. Your body has been on this medicine for so long, and I wasn't getting any answers from doctors that were helping me. They just wanted me to get back on the birth control pill. And so that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to learn everything I can about, women's hormones, nutrition. I'm going to become a nutritionist. I'm going to delve into women's hormones and learn everything so I can help heal myself. And then when I did, and I saw the power of diet and lifestyle and stress reducing techniques, and my periods and ovulation came back, I was like, I have to share this with the world. And so that's what I do. Now I'm the period guru, and I share this with everyone who is willing to listen.
I'm so happy because irregular periods is a big deal with PCOS. And I think, though, however, before we start talking about the irregular periods, we should talk about what, I guess, for lack of a better term, a normal period should be or look like, and then we can establish what an irregular period is. So when we're having a period, what should it look like in terms of length, time in between, and when we menstruate, how we menstruate when we have our period?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, that's so empowering to know, like, hey, what are the normal parameters of a healthy period? Like, what should I be looking for every month? Number one, we want our bleed, which is the period, to follow ovulation. And that's the biggest thing with, people with PCOS is we have a lot of issues ovulating. Like, either we have cycles where we don't ovulate, and ovulatory cycles. So we don't ovulate, but we'll still have a period, let's say 90 days later. So the menstrual cycle is 90 days. Most likely that is a withdrawal bleed because the uterine lining has built up so heavily and you bleed. It's not necessarily an ovulatory cycle. So first of all, a healthy period follows ovulation. That is a period. It follows ovulation. Everything else is a withdrawal bleed. Number two, the menstrual cycle, the total event of the menstrual cycle, and that's day one is the first day that you're bleeding. And the last day of your menstrual cycle is the day before your next bleed. Should be anywhere from 21 to 35 days. And we know with women with PCOS, we typically, a lot of times, are over that 35-day mark, right? That's typical. And then the bleed, the actual amount of days you're bleeding, would be anywhere from 5 to 7 days. That's what we're looking for. And we want our blood to be bright cranberry red. We don't want there to be a lot of blood clots. We kind of want it to be the consistency of like syrup, no clots. And it should be relatively pain-free. I mean, your uterine lining is shedding, so there's going to be some mild discomfort. I'm not saying you should just feel like rainbows and unicorns, but if you're like missing days of work or school, you have to take painkillers all day long to get by. That's not normal. Some mild pain, like maybe I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst. If you're having like mild cramping, like 2 or 3 on the first or second day, and maybe laying down a bit makes it go away, or a hot water bottle or some hot tea, then that's a normal scope of pain.
So you talked about not ovulating. So when we're not ovulating, our uterine, if I could speak today, lining builds up. So does that cause changes in the frequency of our period and the color of the menstrual blood? And so could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the thicker that uterine lining gets, the heavier your bleed is going to be, because there's also a lot of bits of uterine lining that you're losing, and you're going to have a heavier bleed. I would say would be more, probably you're going to be on those longer 7 days plus bleeding. And, it can actually have some health consequences going without a bleed for so long. That's why a lot of people, if you go longer than like 3 cycles, it's really a good idea to go to your doctor, because they can give you like a progesterone capsules that can help you induce a bleed, which helps you shed that uterine lining. No, it's not root cause, but it's helping you reduce chances of uterine cancer, so you can kind of have that bleed. And then you can start getting to the root of the issue, which is restoring ovulation and balancing hormones, which, with women with PCOS, we're looking at like balancing blood sugar, reducing, our insulin resistance, so we can lower those male hormones, androgens, and then start ovulating again, which is completely doable. I feel like PCOS is one of the leading causes of infertility in women, but it's also the easiest to fix if we're empowered with the
Yeah.
right tools and
So
roadmap.
something else that I wanted to clear up before we dive into a couple of the other topics is people, I think, also get a little confused about the length of time between periods, as in some will go like 6 months to a year without having a period, and think nothing of it, like it doesn't matter. Now, in saying that, sometimes women will go on birth control pills where it will control their periods, where they'll have it every 3 months or maybe once a year. So first of all, is it safe naturally to go that period of time without having a period? And what's the difference between having a period that's chemically induced every couple of months and just not having a period?
That's a great question. So first of all, when we're on hormonal birth control or oral contraceptives or whatever type of birth control you're on, it's appearing like you're having a bleed. Like my example, when I was 14, I was put on the pill. Then every 28 days I had a bleed, but that wasn't a real period because no ovulation was happening. It was just a withdrawal bleed from the synthetic hormones, that, the placebo pills. So we're not getting the health benefits from an ovulatory cycle, because ovulation is how we make progesterone. It's a calming hormone. It nourishes our hair, our brain, our moods. And so, helps our bones. So that is a withdrawal bleed. It's something completely different. So it looks like we're having these 28-day cycles, but we're really not. Versus where if, women with PCOS who are not on the pill, they might bleed every 60 days, 90 days. It's very different. I remember like I would have like maybe five periods a year. And as I got better, I was having 8 periods a year. And so what's happening is when that uterine lining sheds, yes, you're still having a bleed. It's not a period because it didn't follow ovulation. There's still some health benefits because, as we just said, that uterine lining is shedding, which is good. It helps reduce our risk of uterine cancer, but we still want to be ovulating. The main goal is to ovulate, right, and restore ovulation. So it's not like lost, like just because you're having withdrawal bleed because your uterine lining got so heavy, there's still some health benefits to it, but not like an ovulatory
Gotcha.
cycle.
So
that's the main goal.
What's the best way to track our periods, so we clearly understand when they are normal or when they're starting late or when there may be something beyond just, stress or exercising too much that may be an indicator that we have to look into things like PCOS?
Yeah, that's it. And I feel like tracking our cycles is the best place to start, because that's really what's going to give us the indicator. Oh my gosh, maybe I do have PCOS, because that's the first place we're going to start. And so tracking we should start. And so my favorite 2 apps to download, we live in this amazing time of technology that can be used for good. It can also be used for not so great things. But the 2 apps I really like are Read Your Body, and then the other one is Kendara. Those are great apps. They don't sell your data to third parties. They ask for temperature input, which I'm a big fan of because that can help you confirm ovulation when you're inputting your basal body temperature. Even if you're not inputting your basal body temperature, it's bringing awareness to how long your menstrual cycle is. So you can be like, oh, when's the last time I had a bleed? Oh my gosh, it was in January, and now we're in, April, and I haven't had a period yet. So you're bringing awareness to that. And then you can also track your progress. So when you're making dietary changes, when you're making exercise changes, lifestyle changes, well, is your body giving you the right feedback? Because if your menstrual cycles are shortening, that's good feedback from your body. Go from like a 90-day cycle to 45. Well, I would say you're doing something right. So that would be a really great place to start. Those are my 2 favorite apps.
And I'm assuming that also helps with the conversation when you go and see a provider, and you tell them, I think something is up, because I know for me personally, even though I'm an advocate and stuff, still talking about things like my period or, what's going on down below is not an easy conversation. So I would love to know
to come in with quantitative data. Doctors love that. They're like, if you're like, okay, here you go. I had my period 6 times this year. This cycle was 45 days. This was 90 days. This is, there's something going on. even better if you can have, if you can show, sorry, I had to, even better if you can show them that, oh, look, I ovulated, I confirmed ovulation these 2 cycles, but I'm not ovulating here. Just the more information.
So is there a particular way that, that you're clinically diagnosed with PCOS, or is it pretty much the same as tracking it on an app and being aware?
It's so objective sometimes because one doctor might diagnose you with PCOS and another might not. And there are a lot of criteria. Usually the Rotterdam criteria is the gold standard, and that's anovulatory cycles or polycystic ovaries on an ultrasound, high androgens. You need to have 2 out of 3 of those. The problem with that one is that I see hypothalamic amenorrhea be misdiagnosed as polycystic ovarian syndrome. So in hypothalamic amenorrhea, there's cessation of ovulation as well, but due to low sex hormones all around. Whereas in polycystic ovarian syndrome, I think it's really important to have the high androgens noted, whether it be on a hormone test or whether it be signs like hirsutism or signs of high androgens as well. So you can technically be diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome without having high male hormones or symptoms of that. Where you have the androgen excess, the androgen society.
The androgen excess society,
androgen, excess society. Okay, that's it. Pregnancy brain, and they have a little bit more of a strict criteria where you have to have high androgens in order to be diagnosed as one of them. And it can also change because like if I went into the doctor now, I wouldn't get diagnosed with PCOS because I've balanced my hormones and I've changed my diet a little bit. I'm ovulating, so I don't have high androgens anymore. I don't have, the last time I went, I don't have polycystic ovaries on an ultrasound. And that's another one. Not all women with polycystic ovarian syndrome have polycystic ovaries and vice versa. So you can actually have polycystic ovaries and not have PCOS. So I see that misdiagnosed a lot too. Someone goes in and the doctor's like, oh my gosh, you have polycystic ovaries, you have PCOS. But really they don't. I think it's like 25% of women will have polycystic ovaries at some time.
It's on ultrasound, only 20% of women who have PCOS have cystic ovaries. So you probably see cystic ovaries in women who don't have PCOS more than you do in women who have PCOS.
True. Yeah.
PCOS. So it's a little crazy. And that's why it's so important to know, again, what's happening to your period and why it's happening, and tracking it and talking to your doctor about it, because there's a lot that goes into this PCOS. So you were talking a little bit about amenorrhea. So let's go over some of these terms a little bit. What exactly is amenorrhea? Because it comes up a lot, but I don't think a lot of people understand exactly what it is.
Amenorrhea is going with the absence of ovulation for at least 6 months. And the signs and the symptoms can sometimes mimic that of PCOS, because someone with amenorrhea could, go long periods, maybe only have 1 or 2 periods a year, and have some similar symptoms. But generally that is due to low sex hormones, not the high androgens, or blood sugar issues. Although people with HA, hypothalamic amenorrhea, also have blood sugar issues. And I see someone here asked, what worked to help you balance your hormone levels? Please share. And if the biggest thing with PCOS was balancing my blood sugar, because insulin is a hormone, and insulin and blood sugar levels, they will influence your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, which will then influence your sex hormones. So it's like a cascade. So it really works on balancing blood sugar, making sure to eat protein and fat together, always pairing carbs with the protein and fat. And that is a really good place to start.
Another term that comes up when we're talking about PCOS and periods is oligomenorrhea. So what is that?
That's just, that's just irregular ovulation. So baby ovulate not every month, but 2 times a year, 3 times a year. And the goal is, that's one of the things too, why women with PCOS can get pregnant. I'm pregnant. I got pregnant. And I have PCOS. I'm due in 2 weeks. Thank you. And it's really just about restoring ovulation. And also, if you don't ovulate every month and you have PCOS, you can still get pregnant. We just need to know when you're ovulating. If you ovulate 6 times a year instead of 12, okay, it reduces your chances of getting pregnant, but you still have 6 tries. And while we restore ovulation more regularly, but you can still get pregnant with PCOS. People do it all the time.
Absolutely.
It's definitely doable.
One more term that I wanted to talk about is the menorrhagia, because I feel that that's important for people to understand. That comes along with a lot of the things like heavy periods during the menstrual cycle.
Pain.
So what exactly is that, and what should we look for with that?
Yeah, just heavier periods and lots of pain. That is definitely a symptom that, over 7 days bleeding, dark blood, usually it's blue or purple in color, such debilitating pain that you can't go to school or work, those would be that. But, typically, Dr. Laura Briden talks about this a lot. And she says that, painful periods is not a symptom of PCOS. It's not one of the big symptoms. Now, people with PCOS are at more risk of thyroid issues, also having a cross diagnosis of endometriosis. I myself also have endometriosis, fibroids. And so those can cause those symptoms too. So because PCOS is this metabolic syndrome, they can put us at more risk for these things. I think that's why they tend to go together. But if you only have PCOS, painful periods aren't typically one of the hallmark
Right, exactly. And one of the other things that I heard about that can cause pain sometimes is patients with PCOS sometimes can have pelvic crowding because your ovaries are enlarged when you have a lot of those follicles in there or a lot of fluid. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. You press up against different organs or the bladder or just cause some discomfort. That's true, because the ovaries in some women with PCOS can get quite large, which causes discomfort for sure.
It amazes me the amount of things that can be caused from our hormones and our metabolism. And I would love you to connect this a little more, because a lot of people think that PCOS is rooted in just the reproductive system. However, PCOS is endocrine, so it affects a lot of things in the endocrine system, and the ovaries are actually part of the endocrine system. So
yeah, it's confusing. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a very old school name that needs to be thrown away, because it is not, it implies that it's an ovarian issue, which, as you just said, it's not. That's just one of the symptoms. It's a metabolic syndrome. So this is really stemming with, blood sugar, and that's why it sets us up for more risk for cardiovascular issues later on in life, diabetes. That's one of the reasons why PCOS is more than just come back when you're ready to get pregnant. It's like, no, we should really be doing something about this now, because if I can get to the root cause and put my PCOS into remission now, it's preventing my risks of dementia, breast cancer, cardiovascular issues, heart disease later on in life. So this is really, really diabetes. This is really important now, not just when I was pregnant. So we really kind of need another name for it. And that's one of the reasons why it's so confusing, because that's one reason why PCOS can look so different on your sister versus your cousin versus your friend, because there's so many different symptoms. And we have all the different types of PCOS. That we have the inflammatory, we have the adrenal PCOS, we have the post-birth control PCOS, which is debatable. Some people say that really doesn't exist. I really do believe it all roots in inflammation, whether it's from gut, whether it's from diet, whether it's from stress. It's an inflammatory. So there's something there with inflammation. So where did it really come from? What was the stem of it? I don't think it necessarily matters so much, as long as we're really I believe in treating the whole body holistically, like a systems biology approach. We're looking at everything together in unison, not just looking at the ovaries, basically. Like, we don't just look at the ovaries and what can we do about this? And, that's why diet and lifestyle is so impactful.
So let's talk about that a little bit. What are some of the natural ways that we can start regulating our periods?
Yeah, definitely. First, I'm such a big advocate of just balancing blood sugar, getting enough protein, aiming for 100 grams of protein a day. And a lot of people are like, how could I do that? Actually, it doesn't look like that much. Now, if you're vegetarian or vegan, it can be a lot more food than if you have animal-based foods. Now, I will say this, and not everybody might not agree with me, but I do not think that women with PCOS are well suited to vegetarian or vegan diets. I think it can work for some people for sure, but we have issues with insulin resistance, blood sugar imbalances, and vegetarian and vegan diets are very high in carbs. I was one for about 5 years, and my blood sugar was all over the place. I didn't ovulate. It really aggravated my PCOS. It wasn't until I started adding in some quality animal protein, eggs, wild-caught fish, grass-fed beef, that I really noticed a big difference. So I don't think vegetarian diets are the best diets for women with PCOS. So getting at least 100 grams of protein a day, eating breakfast, please. No intermittent fasting in the morning, no fasted workouts, no. I know that there have been some studies on intermittent fasting, and women with PCOS are therapeutic. They do them for like 8 to 12 weeks. That's
Right.
it. Not long term. I don't think it's necessary. I think it causes more stress and harm than good, and it's more restrictive and causes more issues with fear around food. Eating breakfast within an hour of waking up, making sure that has 30 grams of protein. Eating snacks, a healthy fat and protein snack every 3 to 5 hours to keep blood sugar balanced. That is really, really important. Reducing carbohydrates, not omitting carbohydrates. I don't think you need to go on the keto diet. Fruits and whole grains, these are great when paired with fat and protein. No, I wouldn't eat a bunch of rice or
Right.
oats on its own, but when paired with the healthy fat and protein to slow down the glucose absorption, that's great. So, you know, definitely that would be the first place to start with diet, and focusing on a variety of vegetables and antioxidants and getting those into our diet. So aiming for, at least 5 servings of vegetables a day. One great way to sneak them in is smoothies. I love to
Yeah.
have frozen cauliflower or steamed frozen broccoli, and I'll put those in a smoothie. I beet powder, get some blueberries in there, lots of rainbow antioxidant rich foods that will help lower inflammation, and adding in some quality protein in there. So that would be my best advice with the diet, like a
Yeah.
good
And
place
what
to
about
start.
exercise as well? Because you were just talking about the HIIT exercising. Can that also affect your hormones and your period? Like if you over exercise or the intensity of your exercises?
Yeah. So that's, that is, everyone's so different in regards to their tolerance of exercises. So cardio all day, every day, like doing a spin class every day and a high intensity interval training every day, is not the best
Yeah.
things for females' hormones. It doesn't mean that we can't do HIIT workouts or spin workouts. It's just good to kind of cycle that into your hormones. We have 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. We have the menstrual phase, the follicular, ovulatory, and luteal phase. Now, sometimes that can be a little bit hard when you have PCOS and you have like 70-day cycles or 90-day cycles. You might be like, where am I? I don't know if I'm not ovulating, but you can start to kind
Mhm.
of live more in line to that. Certain times of the month we have more energy because of our hormones. So like around follicular and ovulatory, our bodies are more well suited for these high cardio workouts. But I would say not just women with PCOS, but women in general, I'm more of a
Yeah.
fan of strength training and slow moving, weights, and HIIT workouts are great every once in a while, but not every day. Spin classes are great, but not every day, because
Right.
they can elevate stress hormones, which if we elevate stress hormones, then they can dictate all the rest of our hormones. And so a good way to kind of is listen to your body. Like, I'm a big fan of everyone listening to what their body's telling them. If you are like so tired and drained after your workout that you can't move for the rest of the day, you overdid it. And and sometimes too, when people have adrenal issues, when they're very fatigued, low stress hormones, lots of stuff going on, they might not be able to work out too much. It might just be gentle walks might be the best workout until they get stronger and get their hormones more balanced and can do more weights and add in more things. So just listen to your body, and You should have energy for the rest of your
Right.
day
So
after working
another
out.
thing that I wanted to talk about that I don't think we talk about enough in the PCOS community is a lot of women complain that they can't always use tampons or pads because they bleed or they have clotting, and it makes it difficult. So are there other products? What kind of products are available that we can try if the traditional tampon or pad isn't working for us?
Yeah, there's period panties are excellent. I'm a big fan of period panties. Because they're reusable, they're sustainable. They have them for very heavy days, lighter days. For people who have really heavy periods and they're like, I need to lighten my period and I'm working on that. You can also use a pad as well in the period panties as backup. There's menstrual cups as well. And um, those are also great because they're sustainable and they're reusable, one-time purchase. So good for the environment, good for the pocketbook. They're not toxic because a lot of tampons are bleached and dyed and have lots of chemicals. So if you are using tampons, I would definitely make sure you're using organic, non-bleached tampons. Same thing goes for pads. But just find what works for you. But I love the period panties. I see someone here said I tried many cups and some hurt. That I get that feedback a lot. It's just like not the most comfortable. Like some people feel like there's a lot of pressure on their bladder. They have to pee off. And so I don't get that. A lot of people really respond well to the period panties
I've heard
as well.
amazing things about them, so I'm glad that that's an option that's out there for people now. So one last thing that I have to ask about is, since we're here as for Heart for PCOS and we're talking about cardiometabolic health and cardiovascular health, I have read that women with irregular cycles or no periods, that there is between a 15 and 40% higher incidence of cardiovascular disease. So what do we have to be aware of with irregular periods lasting long periods of time, and how can they affect our overall health?
No, well, mainly that's because when we're not having periods, it's because we're not ovulating. So we're not making the hormone progesterone. So when we ovulate, we're making progesterone, which counterbalances the proliferative effects of estrogen. So if we're being robbed of this progesterone, that can decrease bone density, that can make us have anxiety because progesterone is very calming and it helps us with it has a relationship with the neurotransmitter GABA that is very calming and relaxing. And when estrogen is just running rampant on its own, like estrogen is great. Everybody's like, oh, estrogen is the horrible hormone, estrogen dominance. That's like the buzzword. And that is true, that can happen, but we also need estrogen. Estrogen is great. It helps our heart. It's good for heart health. It's good for insulin sensitivity. It helps us have more serotonin, which makes our mind happy. But if we have too much, and if we don't have progesterone made from ovulating, we need to ovulate to make progesterone, then that's when things can go wrong and set us up for more issues. It can cause inflammation or insulin resistance that can lead to cardiovascular disease and put us at more risk, especially later on in life. Like men are more likely to die of cardiovascular disease. I think it's before 50. And then after 50, it's women because of the post-menopause, because they're not ovulating anymore, because they're not making estrogen and progesterone in the levels, which is very protective for our heart. So if you're having women with PCOS who aren't ovulating, well, it's kind of like in that post-menopause state where they're not ovulating either. And so we need these healthy levels of estrogen and progesterone to protect our heart. So that's one of the reasons why having PCOS is not just an issue that should be shrugged or put under the rug until you're ready to get pregnant. This is a way of life that we need to learn as young and as soon as we get a diagnosis. Okay, this is what we need to do, and this is how we're going to have a healthy life.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because a lot of these younger girls don't realize, and I'm not saying this to scare anyone, but it's knowledge is power, is that girls as young as in their teens, when they're not ovulating and they're having issues with androgen excess and insulin sensitivity and high cholesterol, that's when you're starting to build the plaque deposits, which later in life can turn into a risk for cardiovascular disease. And that's, like, as you said, why it's so important to recognize PCOS in younger ages and start preventing it from the very beginning with lifestyle, with supplements, with medications, whatever is needed, just as long as we are following a path to better health, because it does matter and it does affect us in the end, later in life and with our hearts. So Jenna, why is it so important for us to have a heart for PCOS and to recognize cardiometabolic health?
Because we want to live long, healthy lives. And it's much more than just, you know, our periods and our ovulation is much more than just having babies. We also deserve a longevity, healthy life, and just this is preventative. So this information that you're spreading is preventative, so we can have good quality lives. We can feel good in our bodies. It's, you know,
I think we might have
I just feel like as women, our bodies are just commoditized a lot. You know, like it only matters when we're trying to get pregnant, and our health matters more than just that, right? We want to live long lives. We want to be here to see our grandkids if we have grandkids. We want to, and especially with that risk of women after postmenopause, their risk of heart disease goes up so high. Well, if you also have PCOS on top of that, that's putting you at greater risk. So this is why this is so important to know
absolutely.
now. I mean, that's my opinion.
So Jenna, if people want to learn more about you, what you do, about period health, how can they find you?
Yeah, well, come on, follow me at the Period Guru over here on Instagram. I'm active here, and I have a free guide to pain-free periods as well, and an online course called the Period Solution that really helps talk about the best foods to eat to balance hormones naturally. We talk more about periods. So I've got a lot of resources.
Awesome. Now, before we go, I promised everyone that I was going to be giving away some swag. So if you wouldn't mind hanging with me for just a few more minutes, I would love to give away some stuff. So gang, whoever is here, if you would like to win one of our 3 prizes, which I showed earlier, I'll just show you again real fast. We have the Heart for PCOS bracelet. It's a paracord bracelet with the teal ribbon. We have the organic tea from Gray and Bash that we're giving away. And of course, the PCOS pack that has a lot of swag in it, including a rhinestone keychain, a fitness tracker bracelet, a stress ball, a whole bunch of goodies. So if you're interested in the giveaway, you have to put a heart in the comments right now. And Jenna, I'm going to have you like kind of close your eyes and just like pick 3 people, and we will pick our winners. So everyone, I got to see those hearts coming in. Oh boy. Okay. Oh, there we go. I see the hearts coming through.
Okay, I see Clack Call is one of them. Open my eyes.
All right, Clack Call, you are going to message me because you just won the paracord bracelet. Congratulations.
And Mishi-san 271.
Well, guess what? You just won the PCOS gift pack. So make sure you message me so I can send that out to you at PCOS Girl. And we need one more, Jenna.
Come on. Where are the hearts? Let's see. I'll pick the one. I'll close my eyes and open and see the next one. Okay, there were a lot of hearts before here. There was one up here. Oh, here we go. L
Sensic. Yep.
Sensic.
L Sensic, congratulations. You're our 3rd winner. 80. You're going to win the organic tea. Please come over and say hello and message me, and I will get those gifts out to everyone. Congratulations, Jenna. Thank you so much for sitting down and spending some time with me and helping people understand PCOS and periods a little bit more today. And again, I encourage all of you to follow her. And in about 10 minutes, head over to YouTube because we have our YouTube channel interview video premiere tonight. So I invite everybody to come over for that. Make sure to follow Heart for PCOS throughout the month of February for more events, interviews, our magazine, our community event on February 3rd. And thank you everyone for having a Heart for PCOS, and Jenna, especially you. My heart goes out to you, and you know, heartfelt thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you for putting together this amazing Heart
Thank
for
you so
PCOS event for us. So
Thank you so much. Until
beautiful.
the next time, guys, which is tomorrow night, back here again. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, Jenna. Lots of love. Thank you and good night.